Hello everyone, my name is Dustin with Everyday Movies and Shows, and I'm here with my brother Jacob.
Hey, how's it going?
And today we're talking about episode 2 of Claymore. Just to let you know, I'm a little bit biased on this show because I like it so much. So every episode I'm going to give like a 1,000. So I am a little bit biased, but that's just because I love the show so much. But today we're talking about the second episode named Blackcard, and it's a little bit slower of an episode compared to the first episode. But after this episode, it really picks up. What do you think of the second episode?
I liked it. I do agree. It is a little bit more slower. I think, but it was good. It especially towards the end, it had some key elements to the episode that I feel like is important. So it's not like it's a filler episode or anything, because I feel like it is.
If the second episode was a filler episode, we had issues.
Yeah.
But it did kind of tell you more about the story, more about the Claymores, more about Claire, a little bit about the organization. They don't really tell you about the organization, but they mention it several times.
Yeah. I think it was interesting where they picked up in the desert. They started out in the desert, and
well, the opening scene is we have the fight scene. With the Yoma.
Yeah.
And we see our first winged Yoma.
A winged Yoma.
Which is interesting, as far as I know, maybe I'm wrong, but as far as I know, that's the only winged Yoma in the whole anime series and in the manga. I don't remember. I'll have to, whenever we go further, we'll have to look. As far as I know, that's the only one.
And that'd be weird to throw it in for the second and then not have it appear anywhere else in the
I could be
the
wrong.
story. If that is the
wrong.
case.
Yeah, I don't exactly remember. But what do you think whenever she was throwing that sword up at him, how her face changed? And you see all the veins go through her face.
Yeah.
See her teeth change.
It's like she's like kind of forming into a Yoma.
Did you understand that whole aspect?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Like where you could see her eyes turn into almost a cat. Like her eyes kind of turn into a cat.
Yeah, they changed to pretty much close to what Yoma eyes changed to.
Yeah.
But so just to clarify, the more power she uses, the more she turns into
Yoma. Yeah.
But they're not really. So whenever a Yoma or whenever a Claymore exerts too much power, they don't turn into a Yoma. They turn into something else. But we'll get into that later. They turn into an awakened being. We'll get into that later. But you can definitely tell in this episode whenever, especially that opening fight scene that whenever she uses, you can really tell she changes her whole appearance whenever she uses her Yoma power.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is pretty cool. I mean, the way it looks, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's like it's the transformation, like the subtle transformation.
Yeah.
Very, very subtle transformation.
Yeah. But after that is whenever her and Rocky's walking through the desert, and he's like, "I'm hungry." She's like,
Throws the freaking sword.
Throws the sword over there. Right, he's like, "Oh shit!" And kills that lizard.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, like, that they Claymores don't eat. Thought that was really cool, that they don't eat, they very rarely eat. It's not that they don't eat, they very rarely eat.
Yeah, she said they eat
once a week.
She said they can go without food or water once a week, or at least for a week, so which doesn't really bother them.
Yeah.
But the one thing she says while they are eating, which is pretty sad, she said that food is a luxury reserved for humans.
Mm-hmm.
Which kind of lets you the tone of the story. That's how lonely she feels, about the decisions she's made about doing what she's done.
Yeah, she doesn't hold herself up to the standards of a human being, which is kind of interesting considering she's like the reason why humanity is able to live. To be humanity is because of her, because without her, Claymores, you wouldn't have a humanity. It would be very scarce. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Be more harsh world without them.
Yeah, we'd be more like a livestock,
Yeah.
to Yoma. So,
Yeah.
Farmed, kind of.
Well, she also mentions, as Rocky asked her about her emblem on her chest.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice the emblem?
Yeah, isn't it like more of that reddish color? Is it like
I think it's like a black red.
Yeah.
Each Claymore has a different emblem. I actually have her emblem on my keychain. I have hers, and I also have another character's, Teresa.
I didn't know that each emblem was like different colored.
They're different designs.
Okay, so I knew the different designs.
Each one is different design to the Claymore.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because I remember the first episode, you could see the sword of her friend that she had to kill. Yeah. And that had a different design on her sword than it was hers. So yeah, that's where you could first see the differences between the
Actually, that's this episode. You talk about when she kills her friend. That's this episode. Is whenever she fights her friend. This episode of Blackcard. Whenever she goes and kills her friend.
That's right.
Yeah. You're getting them mixed up.
I am getting mixed up.
Yeah. So, one thing I was going to mention to you, because you said to me you thought you could see the camel toe in the Claymores. But in this episode, whenever she gets a new uniform from that guy in black, I don't really remember his name. I don't remember his name. So he gives her a new uniform. And when she's putting it on, you can see in the uniform is like a slit down the middle. And when she's putting it on, you can see a slit down the whole body. Mm-hmm. So it looks like a camel toe, but it's not. It's a slit. I'm telling you, you can clearly see it there in that shot.
Yeah.
It's a slit. But it does look that way.
I wonder what the boy would think.
Yeah, my whole thing is with the whole anime is the over-sexualization. And it's very subtle in Claymore. It's not as bad.
Claymore's, most animes, yes,
and that's the reason why I was bringing that up. It's just because I was like, it's interesting. I do like Claymore more for that aspect that they don't over-sexualize things.
I think that's why I was able to get into it.
Yeah, that's why I do like it. It's because, and I don't mind it. It's just with a lot of animes, they overdo it.
Which I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but some of them is hard to watch.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing. I mean, it really depends on yeah, it can be a bad thing, I feel like.
It depends on your personal preference?
I guess so.
You know what your kid's watching?
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's
high
just
school
like...
DxD?
It's just... I feel like it makes it more... I don't know.
There is a little bit of nudity in this, in later episodes, but not like, what you would...
Yeah, like I said, I do like Claymore because it's not as bad. And I think I was more looking into it because I was like, I wanted to find the sexuality in it just so I could be like, this is the reason why I don't, like a whole lot of animes, but I couldn't really find a whole lot of it in it. So that's why...
Well, I'm telling you, once you watch more anime, you kind of get used to that and it doesn't bother you no more.
Yeah, but...
So it was at first too. I didn't want to watch it because of that. And you really get into the stories of some of these shows. You get to the stories. So you kind of don't really...
you're numbed to the
sexualization. It's almost like an added bonus there, because what's the difference between you watching a movie with naked chicks and you watch an anime with naked chicks?
The fact that the movie doesn't have boobies bouncing the entire movie.
Well, that depends on the genre you're watching on the anime. I understand what you're saying, but not all animes are that way. You're looking at what are those called? Fan service animes.
I have no idea.
That's what they're called, fan service. And I've actually watched a couple that were really funny.
Oh, I'm sure
but some can go overboard.
Yeah, I mean,
anyway, that's a different topic for a different time. But anyways, one thing in this episode that I'm really good at pointing at plot holes, or things that don't make sense. And one thing that really got me is whenever she goes and gets her uniform from the guy, when she comes back, Rocky's like, "Oh, I've dried all the meat." "Oh, what do you mean dried all the meat? You got a blow dryer over there? How'd you dry all the meat?" It takes a while to dry all the meat. You can put it up. From what I know, it takes a little while.
Well, I think he was referring to he drained the freaking lizard of its blood.
No, he said he dried all the meat so they can eat it for later. In a way, it won't spoil. It's kind of jerky. He dried it so they can eat it for.
Well, I know back in the day you could do it different. Like you could just use salt. So I don't know. Like it's different back then than what it is now. And since the show is more of like a medievally kind of setting, they're not as like futuristic. They may have been using like an older way of preserving meat, and it probably isn't like you have to dry it out like modern setting. You know what I mean? Like you could package it in salt.
Well, maybe that's what he did. But
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I could be wrong.
They don't really go in detail, which is okay. I mean, there's only like 20 minutes of the episode. How much detail do you need to go into about how he's
drying
the meat out? But what I did think was funny whenever he's talking, he's like, "Man, she's been gone a long time. She must have really had to go number 2."
What's taking her so long? She must have really had to go.
He's very naive.
Yeah, he's very naive. What do you think of Rocky?
I like Rocky. I really do. I think he brings the what's the word I'm looking for? He brings the
human element.
Yeah, I guess. Exactly. The human element, the compassion, because she does not have any compassion. I mean, she does in a sense towards him, because obviously he wouldn't be hanging around if she didn't. But I don't know. I like him because he's very sweet. And she's very cold. So it's nice to have the mix between the two.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you imagine it just having her without Rocky, you could see how the show could be a little bit more brutal, a little bit more cold-hearted. But he brings the light and the warmness to it. You know what I mean? So I think that's really nice. I think he's key. He's very important. You couldn't have the show without him, in my opinion.
Well, also you get to see their relationship grow and how it changes them.
Yeah.
Which is a good aspect of it.
Yeah, I can see that. Which is, to me, is really interesting. It's really interesting that he's even hanging around her. As far as from what I've seen in the show on episode 2, it's just like, why? I mean, I think they did mention something about, I think it was in the first episode, like, why do you care so much for the boy? And it's because, he reminds me of your little brother, or you must have had like a little brother or something like that.
Yeah. It's what, whenever he was fighting, or when Claire was fighting that Yoma that looked like a Claymore. Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting. But
it isn't true.
But that's what I was going to say. They didn't confirm it.
Yeah.
They didn't confirm it. So it was like, what is her deal? Yeah. What is her deal? Why is Rocky able to hang around and no one else is? You know what I mean? Like, I granted no one else wants to because they don't like Claymores, but there is something special about him because he's not like everybody else, which is cool.
Yeah.
There's something special about it.
I thought when I first watched the show, Rocky was a little bit annoying. That's what I thought, but he kind of grew on me. And in the manga, he becomes a complete badass. So.
Which, I don't understand why they couldn't do that in the show.
It's because the manga wasn't finished whenever they finished the show. So basically, they went up to where the manga left off, and they just like, all right, we got to come up with our own ending, and they just ended it.
My question is, did they cliffhanger it, or did they actually do an ending?
Well, we'll discuss that.
I know. I'm really curious. I'll find out.
But anyway, so whenever she's talking to the guy in black, I'm sorry, I don't remember his name. He gives her a black card. So black card is whenever Claymore reaches her limit, and before that Claymore becomes an awakened being.
Yoma.
Not a Yoma. So awakened being and a Yoma is two different things. Right?
It's like a Yoma on steroids.
Not even.
Really?
Not even. Yeah, it's completely two different things. An awakened being is... We'll see it in the future episodes, but they're not even close to what a Yoma is. They're much stronger. They don't even look the same. They're like just giant monsters, basically. Just giant monsters.
Kind of like
what they become.
Like a Titan almost.
But cooler.
But cooler.
But they don't look like themselves. They're just like a giant. Think of the movie The Thing, how how that thing transforms. It's kind of similar to how they transform here to just some weird monster. So
I never watched the thing.
Jesus.
I know. I'm very disappointed in myself for even saying that.
Anyways, yeah. So once Claymore reaches her limit, whenever she knows she can't turn back, then that's when they send the Blackcard.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really make sense because they walk everywhere very slowly, right? And her friend reached her limit, and probably took them at least a week to get there. But anyways, that always bothered me because I know it would take forever for them to get there. She would have probably already went over her limit and transformed. But
well, they only transform for the power, the energy that they use, correct?
But if so if she's already used the energy, she can't go back. Most of them they can't go back. So once they already get to that point.
Yeah, they're there. They're at that.
There.
Yeah, right. But like,
so it's just a matter of time before they transform. How much? I guess their willpower is what controls them from the.
Right, but it's not just your normal energy. You've got to physically go you have to physically go like part Yoma in a sense for that trait to infect you, for you to like.
Basically, it takes over your mind and your body.
Right, but you can't exert that just by walking or by running or whatever. You've got like when she goes when she low key transforms and uses to fight other Yomas. That's when I feel like she's accumulating that that inner Yoma. But
she can access it anytime she wants.
Right. That's what I'm saying. But she's not, just by using any kind of energy, like just your normal energy. I don't feel like she's, that goes into the whole her going to the Yoma or transforming to the Yoma. Only when she when you can see that actual feature change is when she's being more infected. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The more they use their Yoma, the more you see their appearance change.
Yeah.
I think it's 5%. You see their eyes change. I'll have to double check that later. I don't exactly remember. I don't think they discuss it this early. They discuss it later. Mm-hmm. But
and then now once she gets the card and she goes into the city, I thought that was really interesting how everyone just ragged on her like she was freaking. Yeah. The worst kind of being ever.
And then Rocky says, if the Yoma would have eaten their family, they'll all beg you to come help.
They'd be begging you to stay here.
Yeah. And then whenever she checks Rocky into the hotel, the guy's like, no, you're not welcome here. She's like, it's not for me, it's for the boy. So he was like, okay. Then Rocky gets all upset because he thinks she's leaving him or going to go turn into a Yoma. Then that's whenever he runs into that mysterious guy in black again, and he kind of tells her a little bit more.
Yeah, he's walking down the staircase.
Yeah.
And then which, why? I mean, why would he...
Just create turmoil.
But
that's why it's create turmoil.
But I feel like he'd be above that almost. You know what I'm saying?
Why would you think that?
Because he's
not really a good guy.
Yeah, but he's the one that's not head of the organization, but I feel like he was a prominent part of the organization.
Yeah, he's a prominent part of it.
Why would he be so petty? You know what I'm saying? That's pettiness.
They're all petty, to be honest. Most of the people in the organization, not the Claymores themselves, but
I don't know. That's that's interesting. That's interesting.
But anyway, so after that, she walks up there to where that Claymore is, the one who's about to change to a awakened being. And then, right before she's about to fight her or kill her, that's where Rocky runs up, like, please, no, don't do this. And he just doesn't understand.
Yeah, he doesn't understand what's about to happen. And then
he cuts her down.
Well, because it was interesting because he was like, even as she was saying, please give me the dignity to die as a human.
Yeah.
And Rocky's like, there's got to be another way. He's freaking out, And, it's at that point, there's no other way. I mean, if there was a way, you would think that they would know. And, I mean, I'm sure there might be later on, you know what I'm saying? But I'm sure it's a very closely guarded secret,
What do you mean?
To not turn into a Yoma.
If they're... Awakened being.
Yeah, awakened being.
We'll talk. The more we watch it, the more you'll learn about this.
That's what I'm saying. I'm sure they would probably introduce something like that later if there is, but I don't know.
There is. We'll talk about it. It gets so much better. I mean, each episode, really from here, just escalates. It gets more intense, more intense. You get more what the fuck moments. It gets pretty wild.
Yeah, it was sad that she had to kill her best friend. Think about imagine that. That was the person that comforted her in some of the worst times of her existence.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I could do it. You know what I mean? That's rough. That's rough. So I mean, if you really think about it, if you sit down and think about that, that's pretty rough. It's really, really, really crazy.
So overall, the episode, what do you think?
I liked it. It was good. It was the ending was pretty gnarly. It was very sad. I liked how they introduced and talked more about the mysterious guy. But yeah, overall it was good. I really enjoyed the ending of it. I mean, it was a what the fuck moment. For sure. Yeah. It really was. I did. It was a good episode. It was solid.
The manga's pretty much spot on. There's a little bit. It shows a little bit more into Claire's past in the manga, but not much. It's just her and the friend she killed.
Mm-hmm.
Talks about them just a little bit, but that's it.
Yeah, it was good.
For the most part, identical.
That's cool. Is it like that for the most of the manga, or
almost until towards the ending? I mean, of course, later we go, it gets a little bit more different.
Distorted.
But the ending is where they had to change the story because they didn't know where the story was going.
Yeah.
They pretty much had to end the show, and that's where it gets way different. So, but anyways, this is our second episode of Claymore, the Blackcard. Thank you for watching. If you have any requests for any shows that you'd like us to talk about, put them in the comments below, and we'll get to them when we can. All right, thank you very much. Have a good day.
Have a good night, guys.